How do you deal with change? How do you deal with uncertainties? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Hey, thank you for watching. So really all I know how to do is talk about what I've done, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and try to do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. So in this video, I'm kind of going to outline a situation and tell you what I've done that I feel like has worked versus what hasn't worked in the past, and kind of talk about how I deal with change and uncertainty and how I'm trying to get better at that. So when I was a kid, being a firstborn child and a kid that liked to know, I was a kid that liked to know what was going on. I liked to have things sort of laid out in a very orderly, detailed way. I liked to know what was coming. I liked to have things explained to me. And once I knew what was going on, I feel like in that way I could respond and kind of move along in the way that I was being asked. Thing is, you don't always get that. It's like, and my mom always used to say, she was afraid that she would tell me to run fire and I wouldn't. I would want to know why, where we were running and why we were running now and where we were going to stop. So she's like, that scared me for you, and I could understand that because you don't always get to see the full picture. So she also used to tell me, oh, you don't like change. You just don't like change. And I kind of always took issue with that because it wasn't that I didn't like change. I just didn't like uncertainty. And I think that while there is a lot of uncertainty and change, there are also things you can do to kind of mitigate that uncertainty and make it a little bit less uncertain, which is why, coincidentally, I love being an adult. I love being a grown-up. And you know, like those memes or whatever where people are like, I can't adult today. I'm like, yes, sometimes adulting is hard, but I will take being an adult and having full visibility and full responsibility versus being a kid and not knowing what the heck was going on or why. So that brings me to where I am right now. How do you deal with change and how do you deal with uncertainty? And these are two things that have been a challenge for me, but I have kind of learned to deal with a little bit better. Always still learning, always still growing and developing, but some of these things can help. And I'm doing this as well for myself because it's like you always need to hear these things re-articulated, and it always helps to have another perspective. So there are two areas. There's the work area and there's the personal area. I'm going to start with the work because in my view, sometimes it's easier to deal with work and keep it separate from like your personal life, because sometimes I feel like work is a great distraction from whatever's going on in your personal life. So, or a great sort of compliment, whatever. So at work, the industry that I'm working in is going in a lot of ups and downs. So I work in marketing, and recently there were some changes. We lost some clients or some clients closed their doors. And as a result, we had to make some changes in personnel that were like devastating. And it was devastating for everyone. And this kind of all shook out around Friday. Everyone was devastated, everyone involved, even though we didn't work with them. Like I didn't work with these people directly. I had in the past, and they were just really good people. So it was like I was feeling it physically, and we'd all been feeling it that week. Like it was just heavy to have to make these changes. It was awful. So it's like, how do you take care of yourself? How do you deal with yourself in those moments where things happen that are beyond your control? There are changes that you can't control. Maybe they don't affect you, maybe they do affect you. And there are different sort of strategies you take depending on how affected you are. So this is what I'm thinking for myself. Number one, I try to reach out and be supportive. And it's tough because sometimes it's difficult to think about what you're going to say. But I just watched a Gary Vee video, and he was like, stop overthinking things. And I'm like, that's really good advice, just across the board. Stop overthinking. Control your controllables. Control what you can control. This is probably the biggest and best advice that I ever got in a work situation, and it happened in my previous job, and it's just great in general. Don't worry about what you can't control. Control what you can. So that's what I try to deal with, how I try to respond to change and uncertainty in a work environment, and to really say to myself, you know what, I can't control decisions that are made outside of me. I can put forth a suggestion, but really that's all. All I can do is know my stuff and control myself, and that's it. And really, that's all you got, and that's more than enough. So stop overthinking and control what you can control. So the second area is in your personal life. How do you deal with uncertainty and change from a personal nature? And that's, it can be a little bit more I don't want to say thorny, but a little bit less concrete, because you're dealing with other people and other emotions and other schedules and other thoughts and wishes and desires, and that can get a little bit nebulous and a little bit, say, rocky. But there's always that same control, what you can control. And so maybe things change. Be flexible. And that's another thing, like my mom used to say that I was not the greatest at, because I wanted things my way and I needed to be in control. And again, I take issue with that, because it's not so much that I need to be in control. I just like to know what's coming up, and I like to have all the information necessary. And I have to remind myself, even if maybe things change or get rescheduled, I can still control myself. And that's all I need. All I need to know is that I will be okay, because I will make myself okay. So that's where a good element of like self-care comes in. Like, for example, to illustrate, I have been kind of running ragged these past couple days, but I had plans for today that didn't necessarily go the way I would have thought. Nothing major. Okay, so you pivot. And I could like feel myself getting a little bit irritated on the inside. I was like shaky, and like I was getting cold because I just worked out and I hadn't had a chance to shower. And I'm like, what's going on? Like I was feeling like twitchy on the inside. I'm like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna control what I can control? So what I did was, like, I had all these things planned that I wanted to do before I took a shower, and I was like, get in the shower now. So I actually took a bath, and I just took that time to take care of myself. I watched some YouTube videos, kind of guilty pleasure videos, and I took care of myself. I controlled what I could control, and that is probably the biggest thing, is don't worry about what you can't, be flexible, and control what you can control. That's all you can do. So especially during this holiday season, when you may or may not be facing change or uncertainty, just remember that you are ultimately the last word in what you can and cannot affect. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this sort of has been helpful or beneficial to you. I'd love to know your thoughts on things you can or can't control, and how you sort of deal with yourself and help manage yourself and help yourself feel like you're being cared for and supported. Because ultimately that's the goal, and that's, if you're not feeling that from yourself, then that's the first thing you can change. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you'll keep watching.